Hey everybody, welcome to Our Watch. There is a war on our children. You all know it. We've been watching this unfold in front of our very eyes, and there are some people doing some things about that. One of those people is Landon Starbuck. She's going to be talking to us today about her new documentary called The War on Children. Landon Starbuck, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so grateful for people like you, because a lot of people see the war on our children. They talk about it, but they're not getting up and doing something about it. You and your husband have decided to do something about it. You've made this documentary. Talk to us, if you would, about this documentary. What is this all about?
Absolutely. Well, it's called The War on Children because there's an undeniable war on children. I'm sure your audience knows all too well about it, but there's been such a disconnect with online on social media. We'll see videos that are censored or they're disconnected, and then some are censored, some are not. Some people see half the story, some people don't see the sexualization part, some people just see the medicalization of children and the trans surgeries and all of that happening. So we really felt it was important to have a place that was uncensored for people to really get factual information of every aspect of this war on children. This is coming from academia, it's coming from the medical institutions, it's coming from the news, it's coming from so many different areas of culture. And so we connect the dots for people that don't understand that there is an agenda and who's driving it, who's behind it, and what we can do to stop it.
So what was it that drove you and your husband to create this documentary?
Well, we both have a background coming from the entertainment world. I was a Billboard charting artist when I left Hollywood, and my husband left as a very successful directing the biggest stars, Natalie Portman, Smashing Pumpkins, Snoop Dogg. And we were at a point in our spiritual life where we realized we couldn't continue doing what we were doing anymore. And so we made the decision that we didn't want to raise our children in the area that we were raising them in the environment of the culture of Hollywood. And so we made the decision to leave. We moved to Tennessee. But I felt a calling on my life to stand up and address the issue of child trafficking and child exploitation. So I started a nonprofit called Freedom Forever. And it's my passion. I work on that every single day. But beyond just the nonprofit advocacy work, there's a real big gap in education for people that don't even understand what the scope and magnitude of this problem, of how big tech is enabling it, how Hollywood is enabling it. And so we felt that this film was a connection of our gifts, filmmaking, music, and also the advocacy work of child protection issues coming together to serve the audience that we can and reach people that are unreachable. We really feel that it's powerful enough to change minds and hearts. And that's why we, took 6 months to make this film.
So you say you want to reach people that are unreachable. That's a great goal. As you have put this documentary out, have you found any results like that? Are there people waking up because of this film?
Yeah. And I mean, it's a process for anyone who's just even woken up to some truths that have been hidden or buried that they didn't know was happening. I think there's a process to that. So it's not something that happens overnight where they see the documentary and the next day they're, evangelizing about how it changed them. But we're starting to see questions asked from people that would have never asked these questions. And media, attack certain parts of this that are actually inadvertently giving attention to the film and to audiences that would not, otherwise have seen or heard about our film. So we're getting a lot of hate, but we're also opening ourselves up to an audience that before would have been unreachable. And they have not been made aware of a lot of these things. They've been lied to. And so the more we can reach these people, the better. And one way we can do that is by gifting the film. This week, it's actually free on X, thanks to Robbie's X subscribers for unlocking it, but it won't be free forever. And so we really need support for people who are buying the film or gifting it to people that might not have made the decision to buy it, that you want to see. That is something really great we could do for everybody. Or commenting when we see people denying that these things are happening. Comment in the feed, waronchildren.com, or a reel of ours that is exposing a particular issue that pertains to that conversation happening in the feed. We've seen real change happen from just those small actions.
You talk about the hate that's coming your way. I want to talk to you a little bit more about that in just a moment. Before we do that, I want to ask you, what are the big aha moments in this film? What are some of the things that you've talked to people, they said, this is this was this moment where I am forever changed having watched this film?
That's a good question. One of the things that I've heard is that I knew this was happening, but I didn't understand how all the dots connected. And when you see this now, it's undeniable. I think there's, some part of us as humans that don't want to believe that this is true. We don't want to believe that, child trafficking is the epidemic that it is in our country and that the demand is the greatest it's ever been here. We don't want to believe that the average, parent is in the dark about what their children are doing online or the things that they're being exposed to at school. So I think that having that awakening from seeing everything tied together, it's undeniable and it's unassailable because it is factual. This is aren't, it's not our opinion or hyperbolic, takes on things. You look at the evidence and in some cases of the own words of people that are promulgating these ideologies and agendas. And it's just undeniable. And I think that's what makes this film so powerful. But if I had to point to one particular scene, it would be the mom of Yaley. Her daughter was tragically killed by transgender ideology, by the state being permitted to steal her daughter and transition her without her consent. And so that story is so tragic. That interview was so raw and vulnerable for her to do. The bravery it took to do that, but also just to be in that space in that moment was such a privilege. But it was very difficult because of that rawness of this mom losing her child to this. When things get real, when there's an actual toll and a life lost, of children, it becomes more than just ideological, conversations or left versus right or pro versus against. And you realize that there's real lives being destroyed.
Right. And I talked to a lot of people. Obviously, my ministry is here in the state of California. I talked to a lot of people saying, well, it's crazy in California. We just have to leave California. We got to run away from this kind of stuff. And I keep telling people, you cannot outrun this. We see this just recently. There's a family in Montana. Their child was medically kidnapped, brought to Wyoming. They're transitioning that child without the parents' consent. You can't outrun this. You have to be very well aware of this as a parent, and you have to be you have to stand ready to do everything you can to protect your children from this. I want to talk to you about the hate that you'll receive when a person brings truth into a culture that doesn't like truth. The person bringing the truth is going to get attacked. How have you and your husband been dealing with this, and what kind of attacks have you guys received?
Well, I mean, honestly, this has been going on for so long, even prior to the film, just by being very vocal, about our values. So at this point, I think we have pretty thick skin. And in fact, I smile because sometimes we laugh at just how ludicrous some of the comments or accusations are. You kind of have to stay sane, I guess. But I mean, most recently, the Rolling Stone did a hit piece on our film, and it was just interesting to watch how hard they had to try to attack it in some way without actually talking about the film, which is highlighting this epidemic on children. Like they couldn't actually address the facts in the film or what's happening to kids. They had to make it about all of this other ticky-tacky minutia stuff about how we emailed people. It was just, it was a very sorry article, but it just goes to show you that they cannot attack the facts in this film. They cannot attack the fact that there's pro, child mutilation advocates openly advocating for this and in positions of power, like in Colorado with Breonna Tattone, who actually went on to call my husband a shoe bomber and a terrorist on X a couple of days ago. So if they believe people like us are terrorists, or people like you or anyone who thinks that child mutilation is wrong, what do they think should happen to people that are terrorists for thinking those things? What do they think should happen to parents who say, I'm not going to partner with your lies, starting with the pronouns. I'm not going to, lie to my child and take them down this dangerous ideological trap where they can be irreversibly harmed in the process and at the end of it end up mutilated. So, when you put it in that perspective, it's just wild to see that how the evil out in the open, like it's not even hiding anymore.
Right. No, it's Satan. I'm going to say Satan in this. He's become very, very bold in his attack on our children. when we look at this, it's going on, your documentary comes out, people watch it, their eyes get open. What do you say to parents? What are their next steps? Having watched this documentary, wanting to do something, what is the next step for parents?
I'm so glad you asked that, because that was something I'm very passionate about, is action, not just outrage. And we didn't want to make this just to make people, entertained by the bad things that are happening in this world and then do nothing. And so that's why I created the Parenting Revolution Manual. It's a battle plan for how we protect our kids, how we strengthen our families, and what we can do going forward. And that manual is available for free when you subscribe at my nonprofit's website, freedomforever.us. And we've heard amazing feedback that is the most comprehensive action plan of how we fight back, strategy, how we can be effective, and how we can actually have the best resources available in a sea of resources with different agendas tied to them to actually protect our children that are going to work for our families with our shared values.
How can people get this film into the hands of people that let's say for me, like I'm a pastor of a church, we got 1,000 people showing up. Can we as a church show this and let the entire congregation see it? Like, how can we get this to as many people as possible?
Absolutely. We want every pastor in America sharing this film. We can arrange that. Email Lindsay, LINDSAY, at robbiestarbuck.com, and she can arrange all the details for your church screening or your group screening. We've had a lot of small groups as well. So we want to make this available to as many people as possible. That is the goal of this film. But we also, at the same time, have to ensure that we can continue doing this work and creating more films and exposing more to continue this effort.
So currently, you said right now people can go to X and they can watch the film. Besides going to X, how else can people watch it?
So if you go to thewaronchildren.com, it'll show you all the ways that you can watch it on your TV or on different apps, Movies Plus, Rumble. So whatever works best for you, that is the hub of where to go, thewaronchildren.com, to see what way you'd like to watch.
Okay. Well, Landon Starbuck, I want to thank you so much for all that you're doing. I want to thank you for joining us today here on Our Watch. And I want to encourage everybody that's tuned in right now, go to The War on Children, watch the film, share the film, and go and get their kit on how you as a parent can be equipped. So important right now to stand for our children. God bless you. We'll see you next time right here on Our Watch with Tim Thompson.